Hey, ladies.
Hey girl, was this at three or is this the first one?
No, it's the first one. It's at 5. I just was losing my mind and thought it was at 3.
No worries. I was just making sure.
I sent it and then I sent a follow-up email and I was like, I'm at 5. And I was ready to go at 3. I was at school. I was like, and then I looked at the flyer again and I was like, oh, okay, later.
I had three in my head too for whatever reason. And then when I logged in at three, it said five. I was like, okay, I'll be back. And then
Yeah.
when I logged in at five, it said seven. So I was like, crap.
Oh, okay. I don't
But
know.
you're here, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that nobody else registered last minute that I need to send a thing to, but my email is not. It ain't coming up. So if they did, I can't email them anyway.
They can watch the recording.
Yeah, we'll just have to see what's the deal. Let's try to look real quick. Right, straight 5 o'clock. So I'm gonna get started in 1 minute. Yeah, no, it's all the same people. Okay. Because I did have somebody send me a message and they just paid directly because they're not a 4-H or an FFA person. I mean, well, they are, but they didn't have access to log in. You know what I mean? Um, Okay. I'll hit this mute for a second. All right. We'll get started. I just was trying to see who is actually on. Um, Elizabeth, are you registered from one of your advisors or something? I'm just
Yeah. Um, did they put it under Lizzie? It's Carly Bozzard from the Penny and FFA chapter. That's my
got her.
advisor's name.
Got it.
Got
Yeah,
it?
it just
Okay.
goes under your teacher. I'm just trying to see who's here and
Oh, okay.
who's not here. Where are you from? New York?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
She
so
is
cool.
very active on her ag teacher Facebook pages.
Very good, as she should be. Ag teacher pages
Yes, yes, yes.
are for our life. Okay, excellent. I just was trying to kind of see who was here and where everybody was from. I see that we've got some people from, it looks like um, Oklahoma and I don't know if it's Arizona or Arkansas. Ron, where are you from?
I'm from Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay, I don't know my abbreviations too good. Excellent. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And then, like I said, it's being recorded. I don't want to keep everybody's time. I know we're on a holiday week. We all have plenty that we want to do. So I'm not a Zoom expert, and my mouse hates this table I'm on. But I'm going to try to share my screen. Okay, so as I'm sharing, can y'all see that? Okay, so just gonna kind of go into it. First of all, I'll tell a little bit about myself for people who don't know me. My name is Nikki Reed. I've been teaching ag for 29 years down here in Texas. And really my area of what I would say expertise isn't, even though I've spent way too many hours in the barn personally and professionally, it's not there. It is definitely in leadership events and public speaking. I think that they're really the core to everything that we do, even if that is showing livestock, even if that is being on a judging team, whatever it might be, being an officer. And so I really, really push public speaking in my program. And I think I get a lot of people asking me all the time, like, how do you do that? I think I put it in one of my posts this year for San Antonio. I think I have 24 signed up to be in the public speaking competition. And for Houston, it's 26, maybe 27. I think a kid turned in a paperwork Friday, slid it on my desk. So I don't say that to brag, just that there are kids out there who will do public speaking with you if you can just figure out who they are and how to get them to do it. And it's not just doing it. They're not all going to be champions. Of course, we'd love to have public speaking champions. And I've been blessed to have several of those as well. But they're not all going to be champions. They need to be skilled. And so that's kind of what this workshop is about, is how to get kids involved, how to get them just past that breaking point, and then what's the next step? How do you get them beyond that? And this year I offered these pro package and the advanced package for people who maybe don't just need the what do I do first, but how do I make it reach that champion level? And so if you took advantage of those, that's great. If you didn't, and after the workshop, you want to upgrade on Judging Card, you can do that. I'll leave Judging Card open tonight. They usually send me an email the next day and close it out completely. So, and if you need a little more time than that, let me know. All right, so let's get to it. So first of all, why public speaking? I tell my kids this, the number one thing you will have to sell in life is yourself. And I don't mean, in a weird way. I mean that you need to be your own best advocate, right? You have to be able to know what your strengths are, and you have to not only know them, you have to be able to make sure everybody else knows them, that you're confident about it, and you can articulate that. Having some education back there with that is going to just really propel that into the next level when it comes to getting jobs, getting scholarships, getting into programs, getting the internship, getting the study abroads. Those types of things are going to be critical for you. And it all starts with, can you sell yourself? Can you convince somebody that you're the one? So are you prepared? Public speaking is the number one confidence builder in developing self-esteem and courage in individuals. And so some of us start off needing courage, and that turns into belief in ourselves. The biggest thing that I see with public speakers or with students in general, is that they don't believe in themselves. They have so many people in their life telling them the negative things, oftentimes including themselves, and they don't have enough people telling them that they're really doing it well. And so this is a great avenue for that, because when they're getting positive feedback, when they're starting to feel confident, when they have the courage to stand in front of somebody, when they realize that they didn't die from public speaking, it's next level. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about it. So then that brings me to my question. Do you believe in it, right? Number one, and I say this in almost every workshop that I do, whether it's public speaking or just teaching strategies in general, is it starts with you, okay, the coach. And I know we've got some students who will be watching this as well. And maybe one day you're going to be the coach, right? You will be a mentor for somebody. I'm certain of that. Or you wouldn't be here trying to make yourself better. Do you believe in it? Do you believe in public speaking? Do you believe that it is a critical component to being able to be better at all things? Well, next question is, if you do, does anybody know? Do you show it? Do people know that you're passionate, you're excited, you're whatever about public speaking? I mean, if you love Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A, I'm certain everybody knows. They probably could put your order in for you. Do they know that you think public speaking is important? Are you spewing that all the time? Because it's contagious. Everything in life is contagious, not just COVID, everything. Okay. So when you think about this, are you sharing that? Oh my gosh, you should do public speaking. Oh, you know, there's a public speaking contest. Oh, these kids were doing public speaking. Are you talking it up? Because that's what gets them interested. You got to hear it over and over, right? So do you show it? Because like I said, it starts with you. Students buy into what we are selling. Period. If I tell a kid that they should be on this team and I can really make them, I believe it and I can make them believe, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. If you tell a pig tell a kid they should be showing a pig and you can articulate that and there's some excitement there, they're going to figure out how to get the money to show a pig. Okay. They buy into what we're selling. Are you selling it? That's number one. Are you selling it? So I think that that's some self-reflection. You can come to a workshop all day long, but until you believe in it, until you're ready to say, man, we need to do this. This is so beneficial for you. Until you're ready to like get that energy up when you talk about it, your program's not going to move. Okay. So I'm very real. I should have prefaced that. I don't sugarcoat much of anything. And so I just kind of say what needs to be said. And so there's that. Okay. Okay. And then the next is how's your sales pitch, right? Do you trust yourself? Do you know enough? Do you believe you know enough? Because you do, you just may not believe it, to trust yourself to share with your students. Okay, if not, well, that's what this is for, right? Are you excited about the product? Are you? You could sell anything if you're excited about it. Do you share that excitement? Do you tell them they would be good at it? Do you tell your students, man, you'd be so good at this? I mean, personally, one-on-one, do you tell them you would be good at this? Can you make it personal for them? If they show an interest in class, can you relate that to an opportunity to do a public speaking topic over it? If they've done something, can you make that relatable for them? When they show a bit of interest, can you sit down with them one-on-one and help them figure out a topic? Or do you just say, yeah, you should do it. Good luck. Let me know what you find, right? You can't do that. You got it. It's a team effort. It's just like if they're on the chapter conducting team, or I don't know, in other states, maybe they're on an ag issues team, right? And you get them to buy in because there's a team. Well, even if it's just you and them, there has to be a team. They can't feel like it's solo. They'll quit. Do they believe you? And the most important question, do they trust you? If your students trust you, they will literally do just about anything you ask them to do. So again, personal reflection, where are you in the process? Can you sell the product and do your kids trust you? All right. Once we figured that out, yeah, let's go. Let's go. Okay. Here's the thing. Most people do not want to speak in front of people because they're terrified of being judged. Right? Students don't want to get up in front of class. I'm sure many of you have had students that have come up and said, you know, can I not do my presentation in front of everybody? Can I do it just in front of you? I try to talk them off that cliff, right? I don't just say yes. I give them baby steps because we got to get there. Can they speak in front of people? I don't know. Most people are terrified they're being judged. And I think that a lot of that comes with implementing these steps in your classroom, having more presentations, maybe small groups where they feel, again, a team where they feel protected, and also audience management. I do a lot of audience management in my class. I don't allow kids to work on other projects that they maybe haven't finished while people are presenting. We talk about expectations. We talk about what does an audience do. And so I think that if you can build that safe space for your kids in your classroom, again, it's going to give them that trust. It's going to make them more willing to be in front of other people. The other thing is sometimes we just have to face our fears. I tell stories often about one of my biggest fears and how like I just one day decided I have to face it. And from that point on, fearless, literally. And that's a big step. And not everybody's ready to make it right away, but helping them get there. I mean, they'll never forget you for it. And you're just going to make a better human, even if they're not a champion creed speaker or public speaker. Okay. And so we all know this. You need to catch your freshmen. If you've got a 7th or 8th grade program, oh my gosh, you should have the biggest public speaking program with 7th graders ever, because they care less about what people think. The older they get, the more they realize people are watching, the more they care what their friends think. Down here, I start our kids in junior FFA in 3rd grade as much as I possibly can. When I was working with the 4-H, also had so many kids doing public speaking at 3rd grade, 5th grade, if I can't catch them by 3rd. Siblings, if you've got an older kid in your program, get their sibling, grab that one. Because it's also makes a little bit of competition, and that older sibling doesn't ever want to let the younger one down. So they'll do more. Again, help them overcome that fear. You've got to create the team. You and them, or if you've got 5 speakers, they've got to be a team. I treat my public speaking team just like I treat my chapter conducting team, right? We're a team. We train together, we work together, we cheer each other on together. I do a lot of partner pairing. They're a team. There's no individuals in my public speaking program. And then mostly make it fun. Oh my God, make it fun. I love fun. I don't love not fun at all. Rather not be there, rather not do it. So number one thing I do for fun is I have a party. I have public speaking parties. I don't have public speaking practices. So we have a party, like the very first party is usually I'll have like an ice cream bar out, and I might throw questions, and I'll give them like a little ticket or a little token. And for each one they get, it matches up to something. Maybe it's the ice cream, maybe it's the bowl, maybe it's a topping, whatever. And then the last token they can get is the spoon. Okay. And so they have to play along in whatever activity I'm doing. And then they get ice cream and they're like, okay, this is fun. And they're doing it together. They're laughing at each other. I usually make it fun, funny. Maybe it's charades, maybe it's a quick extemp topic, whatever. And now they're like, well, that didn't feel bad. That felt fun. So party. I mean, go out, put out balloons, put streamers. When they walk in your room, make it feel transformed, right? And I mean, even students, if you're trying to build where you're not doing this alone, Elizabeth's like, hey, I don't want to be the only speaker in our program. If your teacher, partner with your teacher, and you can do this too. Like, even if you just get 2 or 3 others, like, hey, we're having a party, pom-poms, air horns, I don't know, but make it fun, right? I always start my first few practices, for sure, parties, with icebreakers. Like I said, maybe it's charades, maybe it's I put random topics and they draw and they got to talk for 60 seconds or 30 seconds. Or maybe I make them throw their shoes in the middle of the room and you go grab it. And when you find the shoe, you got to tell what that person who wears that shoe would be like, right? Something fun, something different, where they're not thinking about speaking in front of someone. Now, all they're thinking about is, I want to come do whatever this is. And if the end game is I'm going to give a speech, okay. It's a trick. You got to trick them. I'm not going to lie about it. You got to trick them. It's like eating your spinach. Okay. Got to trick me because I'm not eating it. Speaking time. Encourage everyone to do it. I put so much of this into my class presentations, and it might just be that one day I'll say, hey, first 5 minutes today, we're having speaking time, and you can earn bonus points. And they just draw a topic. And again, they got to speak for 30 seconds, or maybe I'll put two kids up there and I'll give them one side, you know, I don't know, Thanksgiving or Christmas. And they got 30 seconds each to debate it. Speaking time, just something fun to break up the monotony of class and just take 5 minutes. And when they start to do it, then they're like, oh, okay, that wasn't horrible. I didn't die. They all think they're going to die. I tell them that, nobody dies from public speaking unless you're getting assassinated, and they're not really that important just yet. So they're safe. Sorry. But that's what I tell them. Okay. But man, get everybody to try and use your kids, right? You got that one kid who's just not gonna for you, but they might for the person sitting next to them. If they say, hey, let's go together. Hey, I'll go up there with you, whatever. Clean joke day. Sometimes I do clean joke day at the beginning of class, and I'll let them know, hey, Friday's going to be clean joke day. Bring your best clean joke. Well, they get up and they tell their joke and kids laugh. They get the reaction they're supposed to get, and they have less anxiety about standing up in front of people. Whatever it takes, it's a process to change their mindset. That's the very first thing. Okay. All right. So if we evaluate ourselves, we know we're ready, we're excited. We've figured out a plan to get people excited. But how do you find the right speaker? Well, typically they're right in front of your face. Okay. They are hiding in plain sight. They're right there. So what do? I pay attention. I pay attention to conversations they're having. Are they, do they give a lot of detail when they're talking? Do they, think quick? Are they quick on their feet? Because questions is a huge component, right? So you got to have those kids that can think. I'm not sure if this is blocking your screen, so I'm going to move it over here so you can see this. Yeah, who has random info? Like, who's that kid that you're like, why do you know that? Why? Yeah, and then watch who other students are drawn to. Okay, if you notice that Bella is always getting kids to listen to her stories, Bella's got that whatever it is, okay? And you need to get a hold of Bella, and you need to have Bella doing public speaking. Also, you kind of have to become the teacher that where you build yourself up to the person who doesn't really just take no for an answer. I need a reason. If you're not going to do something that I tell you you're really good at, you're going to have to tell me why. I don't just take no. I tell kids, like, look, here's the thing. How many of you play a sport, right? When did you decide to play a sport? How did you decide to play a sport? You just woke up one day and decided you were going to play baseball? Most of them will tell me, no, somebody influenced me. Right. I'm influencing you right now. Just because it's what you did, always done, doesn't mean that there's not something new that you can start doing now. I think you just have to make them think about that, right? They're like, oh, I play softball. Okay, that's great. But you can do something else too, right? So you have to get into their mind. Again, you got to make them trust you. You have to be a little bit assertive sometimes. I really am I don't take a lot of no's for an answer without good reason. Like, if you want to quit my team, we better chat about it, because we're not just going to quit. That's a side note. Okay. Recruiting speakers. This again, because I don't know what you can see. Okay, let them notice something that you've noticed something positive about their speaking. So when I have kids give that presentation, or maybe they were doing a group project, I'll write on their paper, man, you have a great voice. I mean, and I'll mean it. Like, I'm not going to write it if I don't mean it, right? But you have such a great voice, or dang, you did a great job answering those questions. Like, I take that extra little second to make something personal about their speaking, because that, again, is what they're terrified of. They're being judged. They're being scored by the teacher, right? And then you tell them, oh, we have a public speaking team, right? Not you should do public speaking. because that sounds very individual. That sounds like a lot of work. I have a public speaking team. You should come check it out. And they're like, oh, a team. It's just a difference in words and they love it. Another thing I do, if I can't find kids to recruit, is I offer as my semester exam that they can do a speech. You can pick a topic. I give them a list of topics and I tell them their speech has to be 5 to 8 minutes. They have to have it written out and they are allowed to read it, of course. They don't have to have it memorized. But now that they've got this topic and they've done the work, then I say, oh my gosh, do you know that that's what we do in public speaking? It's that simple. We write speeches and then we present them. We bring them to life. And you have a speech and you have a great voice. You should come to our team parties. And then next thing you know, they show up. So those are my two biggest ways to like recruit, either off the bat or I give them the option to give a speech. And I don't give them a lot of other options. I mean, if you give them too many options, they're not picking this. I give them a written final that's 150 questions. Well, they don't want that. I give them the public speaking option. And then I give them a poster board option. Houston has that. Wow. Well, if you're not from Texas, you don't know, but in Texas, the Houston Rodeo has a wildlife poster board contest. And so I let my kids have that as an option or public speaking as an option. None of them picked the written final because I showed them and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. So they end up participating in one thing or the other because those are their two options. That's it. And unless they exempt. And I teach the principal's class, so most of my kids can't exempt my class. Okay. So I don't know if I can really hide this really well. Here we go. Finding a topic. That's the next thing, right? So number one, is the student interested in this topic? And something that has a personal connection is a huge advantage. Now, I've got some kids that speak on things that I don't think are maybe as strong of topics, but they are personally connected to them. And you'd be surprised how much further they go because they are personally connected. They should at least be intrigued. They should at least find it interesting. My daughter's last public speech, that was probably her strongest. I mean, obviously she was the most mature, the oldest, the most seasoned, but it was on transgenic technology. And she actually read about that in an English EOC. It was like the prompt and it intrigued her. So she went and looked it up and then she was like, I'm writing my speech on this. And I was like, okay, sounds great. And it was great. I mean, nobody understood it, but it was great. ChatGPT is your best friend. And I don't mean for writing your speech. Google is so much slower at getting you the right answers. ChatGPT, I open that girl up and I say, hey, what are the most current topics in ag business? She throws some at me. I read through them and I'm like, okay. Tell me more about this. And she'll expand. And then I'll say, okay, give me 5 sources that I can find information about that topic. So now I've narrowed down my topic and I have my sources. And then I go from there. And I say that's what I have my kids do. We sit down, if they don't have a topic, we sit down, we all open ChatGPT and we do it as a group though, right? I mean, I have a ton of speakers. So kids will pull up and my veterans will do it too, even though they have a topic. They'll pull it up and they'll be like, "Ooh, this is really cool." And they'll give us like a synopsis of it. And then people can put it on their list. And then at the end, they kind of like, I don't want to say rock, paper, scissors, but they hash out who's going to take what topics. My new kids do, right? So, but the older kids help them a lot too. So once you have an established program, it's just like if you had a chapter conducting team. My seniors help coach my green hands. Work smarter, not harder. So use the resources, but please don't let her write your speech. She does not write like we talk. She's not good. She is not good. She'll write it for you. She will, but you can tell. I don't know about in other states, but Texas Farm Bureau and anybody can request to be on their, what do you call it? Like their email. They're a great resource. They send out daily emails and I use Farm Bureau a lot for my extemp speakers. I just, every time they send that out, I put it in a file and then I start printing topics and we build I'm old school, so we still do binders. I don't trust the, whatever electronic stuff. But a lot of times they might share, something in their daily email that's a really cool topic and you can take that and run with it. So if you're not getting Farm Bureau daily, whatever, you don't have to read them right then, but you can scan through it and be like, oh, okay. Make sure it's current. Some things are really outdated. GMOs, outdated. Stop talking about them. They're not new. Organic farming is also not new. There are some things that are not new, but the timing might be more right for it now than then, right? So just make sure your topics are current. See if, even if it's an older topic, has it changed in a way that makes it now a more viable topic, right? Also, here's a big one. Make sure it fits in the category. Now, I don't know about other states, but in Texas, we have so many kids doing public speaking that we no longer have, and we haven't for years. We don't have just green hand or junior and senior speaking. In the senior division, we have 6 different categories. So they can be ag business, ag policy, ag tech and comm, plant science or horticulture, whatever you want to call it, animal science, and natural resources. And so in Texas, you have to fit into one of those categories. At the state level, the winner of each category, top 2 in each category, well, no, the winner in each category, goes on to be the overall champion. That's who goes to nationals, right? The one kid. But because we have so many kids, we got different stuff, right? We have a lot of things that other states don't have because we're trying to find somewhere for those kids to participate. But like in New York, y'all may not have the categories. That being said, it should still be an ag topic, right? But you can always move to Texas and be in a category. And it's not freezing up there, down here. Okay, give them a list of ideas. And again, with ChatGPT, this makes it so much easier. I do partners because I do have a big team. So I let everybody work together and we just come up with big lists. And then people start figuring out what they like, right? The other thing is I tell them, once you figured out something you like, you have to make sure it has at least 5 sources. Because if you can't find at least 5 sources, you're going to struggle to write a really good speech. And you're going to struggle to answer questions because you're not going to have enough content. Okay. Again, I'm old school. We do things, a lot of things old schoolish. So my students have a binder, and in that binder is every article that they're using in their research, whether it's in the speech or just for questions, extra copies of their speech in case we get somewhere and they need to turn in a hard copy. They have the score sheet. We work the score sheet, right? You might as well know what you're being scored on. Extra statements of originality. That you never want to get somewhere, and heaven forbid you didn't get your statement of originality turned in and now you're out for something so simple. And in Texas, a lot of times we have to upload that ahead of time, but I still carry a copy. I make the kids always have a copy. They also have a question section in their binder. So when they come out of a contest, before we even start talking about it, they go to their binder and they write down what questions they were asked so they don't forget. That does 2 things. Number 1, obviously it keeps a question bank for them. And number 2, they can start to see which ones are the most common. And that way they can make sure they're really prepared for those. And then more research. Anytime that they get a question that maybe they couldn't answer, they go do more research. It goes in their binder. So definitely have them keep a binder. I will tell you that my kids have so much pride in these stinking binders, right? I make them a little cover and it says, public speaking team and their name. And they're like, oh, I have a public speaking binder. Like, it's the simplest things, guys. And y'all know this, right? You could give a kid a sticker. You think you gave them a winning lottery ticket. I mean, don't make it harder than it is. Just make it a thing. And everything to them is a thing. Oh, I have a public speaking binder. Do you have a public speaking binder? Oh, you don't have that? Okay. So I would just be, every little thing you can do. My kids are ordering shirts because if you've gone to public speaking contests, everybody goes and practices on their own, right? Standing there facing the wall talking. So my kids are ordering shirts that say Cinco Ranch FFA Public Speaking, and the back says we talk to walls. Okay. They think they're special because they have a team shirt now. And like we have team shirts for judging teams, so they have team shirt for public speaking team. And now they think they're somebody, right? It's the simplest things. All right. You can't just throw them to the wolves, right? You got to give them a timeline. So I do one of two things. When my kids say, oops, I did it again. Oops, I did it. Sorry. I don't charge extra for the singing. Don't worry. I give my kids a timeline. If they're going to do this for class, and this is not this year's current timeline, I've actually backed it up, right? But if they're going to just do public speaking on the team, like they know I'm going to be a public speaker, these are some dates. Now, I introduce public speaking like 3 times throughout the year. I introduce it right at the beginning of the year, and I pass out a timeline with more, like those dates end in like October or September. And then I give them another one as we're starting to talk about majors. Oh, you weren't sure then? Are you sure now? And I revise the dates to give myself time, because I'm sure you can imagine when I have 26 speeches to edit, I need time. I also tell my kids that if they can't meet my timeline, I understand. But it's just like baseball, right? If you need help batting, you go pay a batting coach. If you can't meet my timeline so that I can help you for free, then here's contact information for some other people. And I have some past speakers who were excellent, state champions. My daughter and a couple of others that I stay very close in touch with. And I will give them their information and they can contact them and they can pay them directly to edit at that point, because I don't edit after my timeline. If they don't meet the timeline, now, if you're just building a program, right, you're just starting, you may need a little flexible, right? But as that starts to get built and you've got more, they understand. They do. They understand the respect of your time. They may not meet the deadline, but then they will find someone else to do it. And so that's something you may have to build to, but I have that established. Like my kids know if I can't be on Miss Reed's timeline, then I'm going to have to pay, one of these girls to edit my speech, because they don't want to go unedited. That never works for them. But anyway, here's just an idea, and I will email you my timeline so that you can edit it for your own use. Okay. The other thing is, if they're going to do it for class, I don't know how to make this bar go away. Oh, look at that. If they're going to do it for class, I give them a rubric, right? I make it multiple grades. And I do the same thing with the poster board, right? So again, my kids have to decide well ahead of time if they're going to take a written final. And if they're taking a written final, again, nobody takes a written final in my class. Nobody. Like literally nobody. But if they are, they have little quizzes they have to take along the way. So whatever it is they're doing, they have these grades along the way. And so as you can see here, by using this rubric, it helps them know, okay, well, my final is my speech, but these other grades are going to be included. And I just change it up for the wildlife poster board, and I give quizzes or whatever, make them write questions for the test. So there's grades along the way, and this really helps them stay on track a lot. especially when they see major grade 3 times. They're like, oh crap. So they get it done. Okay. So, by the way, please holler if you have questions throughout. Just, open your mic because I can't really see everybody's hands because I'm on this PowerPoint. So writing the speech. Okay, we've already talked about it. Make sure the topic is current and use Google, etc. Okay. You got to have some data. Plenty of data, right? But oh my God, it can't be boring. You cannot put people to sleep. It cannot be so full of content that no one's listening anymore, right? You need some small stories. You need to have a personal something in there. You need to have examples in there. If you can work in just a little giggle or two, that's huge, right? So it's got to have some teeth to it. It's got to be a good topic, but it cannot make you want to fall asleep listening. And that's not just about the presentation. I have seen kids who are very good presenters that I can't listen to because I am done listening to the data. So be mindful of that. My kids will always ask me, should I ask my English teacher for help? My answer is no. I don't think that we write our speeches and present our speeches the way that you write an essay, right? It's similar and the organization is similar, but the content is and the delivery is different. And I think that English teachers don't see that. Now, maybe a speech teacher, but I don't send them to the English teacher because they will write the good stuff right out of it because they're correcting grammar. So I don't do that. But you can do what's good for you. All right, make sure you grab their attention. You got to have an introduction that paints a picture. If it's personal, that's great. It should be descriptive. Maybe a thought-provoking question. I think it depends on the person, right? Are you going to ask a good question? Are you going to have a quote? Do you start with some facts and then kind of leave them hanging? Like, what is that? Like one of my kids, her speech starts with a bunch of numbers and you have no clue what these numbers are. And then she starts talking and then she goes back and she connects those numbers and they're like, okay. But they're thinking the whole time, what were those numbers, right? You got them because now they're still wondering. That's one of the biggest things. If you don't have a good hook, well, if I'm your judge, you're done because I'm done. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the case with most judges. People don't want to listen if it's not interesting. I'm a picture painter with words, not an artist. And my kids know that. And they'll come to me with a topic and they'll be like, can you please just help me with an intro? And they know, turn your recorder on because I'm not going to remember what I just said. And I just spew out some words. We usually then, they'll sit down with me, we'll tweak whatever I said, and we'll come up with an intro. And so that's something that a lot of us, because of the line of work we've been in and the teams and things that we've done, we all have it. We just don't all use it like we should. And so I think that that's something that you can put into practice too as a coach, is just whenever somebody says a topic or says something, you got to start practicing just spewing out something, an intro, like, I don't know. I just kind of think that way. Like if I hear something like a minute ago, I just sang, like it just happens. And the same can be true with your public speaking intros. That honestly is your first opportunity. They say first impression. So if you don't have something good there, if you just start your speech, don't do that. Okay. And then you got to keep it. Again, don't overload them with too much data. Remember to be personal when you can, slight humor, relatable examples. And a really, really good speech will connect back to that intro. Whatever that catch was in the intro, if you can somehow connect that back in your conclusion, man, you just got that little extra something, right? And in these competitions, it's that little extra something that's going to make or break you in the end. What made you memorable? You know what I mean? So think about that. Before we talk about that, also one thing that I don't have on here is that I really do try to get my kids to come up with that intro. I use mostly the intro and a little bit of facts that we pick out here and there as their abstract. Not sure about other states, but in Texas, we don't turn in manuscripts anymore. We just turn in an abstract, and manuscripts have to be available for, well, at the state level, we turn in a manuscript, but they have to be available if asked at a lot of these competitions, but they're not scored. So you want that abstract to really paint that picture and give you an overview of what that speech is about. And so a lot of times that is our intro, is our abstract with just a few other details. So kind of think about that. All right, you got to write with the scorecard in mind. It's just like a rubric for class. If you don't know what you're being scored on, you may not be getting the points, or if you're training a team, ag issues or skills demonstration or whatever, if you're not writing that script with the scorecard in mind, well, you're probably leaving some points on the table. So always work with the scorecard. They're on, in Texas, they're on the state site. I'm sure nationals, it's on the national site. And you need to have that out, right? When you're reading over the final draft, you need to see, are you covering everything? A lot of the scorecard is based on delivery. Okay, you gotta work with that when you get into that practice portion. But you still want to make sure that you've written with the scorecard in mind. And for nationals, that does include a manuscript. Okay. Required documents, at least here, I think this is everywhere, but okay. So like I said, the abstract, we write ours after the speech. Use the intro. I already talked about that. Check your word count, because sometimes they do limit you to word count, or there's a minimum. The manuscript, okay. Here's the biggest thing. If you want an English teacher, now's the time. I don't know about y'all, but mostly in Texas, our high school English teachers use MLA and we use APA. That's a whole nother day's discussion as to why we do that. But not all of them are up to speed on APA. Get yourself a copy of the Purdue OWL. Just get it and have it. And also, there's an online Purdue OWL. And you can use citationmachine.com. They're excellent for putting your citations together. It asks you what format. It even asks you what version of APA. And you just type in your stuff. It pulls all the info, and then it gives you exactly what to put. And you can type them all, and it's free. It'll keep asking you, like, do you want to subscribe? No. But you can just put them all in, and it'll actually put them all in order as well after you have them all in. So it's a super great tool. Make sure that you have your in-text citations. I can tell you, if I'm ever having to score applications, that's the first thing we look for, is before we even start reading. If there's no in-text citations, then it's considered plagiarized. It's a 0. You're done. Because you didn't write a whole speech based on solely common knowledge. You did not do that. So make sure you have your in-text citations. Even if you're paraphrasing, you still have to cite that. And that citation machine will do that for you as well. So it's a really good guy. Leave room for questions in your writing. Sometimes my kids want to put so much detail, and I'm like, back off, buddy. Take this out and take this out. And they're like, that's important. I go, yep, it is. But you need to have that little carrot so that there's room for questions, so that when they ask you a question, you can refer to more of your information. So you don't want your speech to just be word vomit of all the facts, right? Save space for questions, because that's really where you're supposed to shine, right? That's a deciding factor. All right. In Texas, like I said, we don't score the manuscripts, not even at the state level. So judges should not be following along. If you're judging and you're following along, you should stop doing that. A kid does not have to speak that speech verbatim in Texas. They could have changed something, whatever. You should use that speech to help develop some questions, maybe, if you're not, used to developing questions while they're speaking. But you should not be following along and being like, well, they left that paragraph out. Oh, they didn't say that. No, you got to stop doing that. That is not good. Okay. Works cited, obviously APA format. Even if you don't cite something in your text, I have my kids include it. Now, if they got 20 sources, we don't do that. But like, let's say that there's a few sources that maybe helped them get to an idea, but they didn't actually use that, we still put that. So I like for them to have like 8 sources instead of just 5. But I have some kids that have like 12, and they use a lot of them, even though if it might just be 1 or 2 little thoughts. Most of the contests here do require 5 sources, so do make sure you have that. And sometimes people just have that in their mind that you need 5 sources, so I would have them. Again, I listed the places that I use the most. I do not run anything through AI, because once you do, then you could find yourself up against somebody saying you plagiarized, because now it's on the internet. I honestly don't even use Grammarly. My kids do sometimes, but I don't like it. I don't trust it. I never want to give somebody the opportunity to say, well, it was plagiarized. That actually happened to my daughter in college, and she is the last person on earth who would plagiarize. She takes way too much pride in her writing to let a machine write it, as she would say. So just be careful with that. Yeah. Okay. Enough said. Okay. So then we got a speech. I would definitely, last thing I'm going to say on writing the speech is I would definitely make sure that you're editing it. And if you're not really great at that, I mean, I do offer that as part of the package, but it doesn't have to be me, right? Find someone else who you trust, and maybe y'all can swap. Maybe you'd be like, Jennifer will say, hey, Lacey, I'll edit one of your speeches if you'll edit one of mine. Like, can we read each other's? Like, just team up, right? I never worry about helping people be better, because first of all, I think public speaking is that important. But second of all, like, if there's not anybody out there worth beating, it's not worth winning. I'm about competition. My kids know that. And so I say, help everybody be as best they can be. And so, yeah. Okay. Effective practices. Like I said, make it fun. The more you make it fun, and the more kids want to come. And food. Kids like to eat. If you have food, like I have a little, like oversized toaster oven thing, convection oven, whatever you call it, in my room. And some days I'll just bring in like, hamburger buns and a jar of pizza sauce and pepperoni and cheese, and they can come in and make themselves a little pizza before the practice, and they think it's fun because they got to make it and whatever, and they put it in the little oven and they make their own pizza, and everybody has pizza. And or I'll have ice cream. They make ice cream sundaes, or some days I just have popcorn. I'll pop a lot of popcorn and put it in a bucket. They come in and get a cup of popcorn. Prizes, I ain't gonna lie. I go Ag Teachers Conference and Texas FA Convention, and I just go around to the booths and I get all the free stuff. And I ask people to donate to my prize bucket. And I have 2 huge, like big, deep prize buckets. And when the kids do something great or they're the speaker of the day or of the week, they get to get in the prize bucket. And I have the anybody can get in it prize bucket, and I got the you better be real good prize bucket, right? Like there's two different levels of prize buckets. I have a bucket of stickers also. Sometimes it's just a sticker. Kids love stickers. You can order like a 500 pack of stickers on Amazon for like $5. And kids love them. I literally have a whole bucket and I'll be like, oh, it's sticker day. Oh, they dig in there like they're 5. Okay. I give on their ID, I use the stupid little gold, silver, green, red stars. I put those on the back of their ID for different things. And when they get to a certain number of stars, they get a prize, right? So maybe whatever, you can do that however you want, but I try to make it fun. I let the kids judge each other. Sometimes we do a group, like I'll set up 3 different rooms and I'll send X number of kids to each room and we'll go through a rotation. And the kids will judge each other using the scorecard, right? Because when you sit on the other side, you see what it looks like to be scoring. It gives you a whole different perspective. So I have the kids judge each other, and then sometimes I just put them up in groups, like in pairs, I mean. So some days I'll be like, okay, it's partner day, and you're going to go do this, this, and this. And when we have group days, I sit in one room and I'll bring in other judges, maybe another teaching partner, or I mean, I have several, so that's a blessing for us, or maybe just another teacher. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a former speaker, but I'll usually set up 3 or 4 rooms with like 5 kids per room. And I will have someone in there as like the judge, even though the students are judging, that person's in there too. And I get the feedback from them is what I'm really looking for. Have them come up with competent questions. When they're in there, I require them to write 3 questions for each speaker. And then they're going to give those questions to that speaker, but they got to be competent. They can't just be them silly questions, right? They have to be good questions. So again, lots of things going on there. You're building that question bank. Kids are learning to think on the side of the judge, and you're getting to have a good practice. If you only have 6 speakers or 4 speakers, we'll do pairs or do whole group with 4 people. It's fine, right? One person's up, the other 3 are judging with you, that kind of thing. It also frees you up a little bit because you can be able to move around a little bit more, right? So there's that. I'm drinking my milk over here. I love milk. Okay. All right. Practice. People say practice makes perfect. That's not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you let kids practice lazily, they're going to stay lazy. If you let kids use their note cards constantly in practice, they're going to keep using the note cards. When I have kids that are on a note card, I don't let them take them up in a practice. I make one person have the speech, and if the kid gets stumped, they feed them the word, but I don't let them continue to be stuck on their note cards. That's not to say that I haven't had kids go in a room with note cards. There are some kids who, they don't learn as fast. They have a lot more obstacles. And just the fact that they're walking in that room with a note card might be success for them. Okay, when I'm talking a competitive kid, they're not taking a note card. That's not happening. So again, group practices, peer pairing, and I don't let them pick their pairs. I don't. I set the pairs. Individual time slots. I create a whole list and I put it on my door. It has a date and a time and how many people I will work with during that time slot. So I'll usually do like a 45-minute slot, and I usually do 2 kids per slot. So those are my extra times. Those aren't the actual practice times. And that means they can get more 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or whatever. And it's first come, first serve. Now, if they no show a time slot, because you got kids that'll do that, then I take them off all their other time slots. And they have to prove to me that they're going to show up, because they've basically taken somebody else's time and now they didn't use it and neither did anybody else. So I have a 0 tolerance for that. If you no show a time slot, I take you off the list completely. Again, you have to kind of build to that. My kids are well aware, and I can do that. But I think you do have to have those boundaries because they will abuse your time if you're not careful. The other thing is videos, the speeches. You video it while they're speaking on their phone, and then I send them home. I make them watch it, and I make them write a critique and edit it. When they see themselves on the screen, they are much more critical about the things that they need to change. So I feel like that's been a really, really useful tool for us is we video and they have to go home and the next day they have to bring back their edits, critiques, whatever you want to call it. Have an audience. Sometimes that can be their peers. Sometimes you can just invite a few teachers or maybe a couple of parents. Have an audience and make them get used to speaking in front of people. Make sure your audience have friendly faces. Don't call all the people in who, look terrifying. Call the people in who are going to smile, who are going to make them feel good, even if they're not great yet, right? So prepare them by giving them the thing that we don't all have, right? I'm hardcore. When they sit down in front of me, they always say, you're scary. I don't think I'm scary. I just think that I'm to the point and I'm here for a reason. I'm your coach and you feel different. But when you bring in some other people who feel softer, right? Then those kids really, really want to, they want to do because they get some good feedback. These people look very interested. They're very excited. They put a smile on their face. So find those people, make you a little list, let them come in, and then bring in some judges, bring in some people who are going to look like a judge so that when they go in that room, you may not be someplace that lets you go to invitationals, right? Or you may not even have any. Bring in some people who are judges. So when they get in that situation, it's not the first time and they don't freeze. Have practice competitions in your own classroom if that's what you have to do. Write down every question you ever hear. Decide if that question is worth investigating. Make sure you have good answers. Sometimes the question may not be great, but you might be able to tweak it to make it a great question. So I think that's one of the biggest things is make sure you are drilling questions. Now, that being said, I do not have my kids come up with canned answers. I don't like it. I think it reads that way in a room. And so I teach my kids to be very organic about answering their questions. Very rarely do I have kids write down answers to their questions. And I would do that only with my kids who are maybe a little slower at learning, right? Who need that. That's a tool that I use because I tell you what, I got some kids who no one else would think they would do public speaking. And you have to treat them a little bit different, right? But at the same time, I think of like the group, I'm looking for people who can organically answer a question. I'm looking for people who sound very articulate, knowledgeable, make a connection. That's another thing. I'm going to get to questions in a minute, but we'll talk about how I handle questions. But this is kind of how I focus my practices. All right, competitive edge. It takes more than memorizing. However, it needs to be memorized. It's a public speech, not a public reading. In my opinion, they need to be memorized. But after that, you've got to give this speech life. Presentation is the key. Speed, gestures, movement, tone, volume, all of that has to come together to make you want to listen. People got to be able to tell the story through all of that. If you got a kid that can tell the story on their face, bonus. Okay, big bonus. Because typically they're more believable. They are more genuine. So if you can teach a kid to tell the story with their face, well, you probably fixing to beat some people. Okay, it's got to be rehearsed without looking like it's rehearsed. you'll see comments. Oh, it seems really rehearsed. And some people get so mad, and I get it. I would get mad too. It's a prepared public speech. It's supposed to be rehearsed. Yeah, it's just not supposed to feel that way. That's what they mean. It's not supposed to feel rehearsed. It's not supposed to feel like you have said this 50 million times. When I watch somebody give a speech, even though I have this one girl, man, she good. She's real good. And every time she gives a speech, she does the same things. But you wouldn't know it. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't read that way. You think, oh man, that looked real natural. Okay, that's what you need. You need planned to the point that it doesn't look planned. That takes a special kid, and it takes a lot of practice. I tell my kids, when they start doing things repetitively, I stop them. And I'm like, you already did that. You did that the last time you said it. Do something different. Well, like what? I don't know. Stand there for a minute and figure it out, but do something different, right? I force them to change what they're doing so that it doesn't become repetitive. Unless I have like this Sophia or like my daughter, you would have never known they were doing the same thing every time they spoke. They just, some kids have that. Most do not. So you have to kind of force that out of them. Okay. Questions. Take your questions to the next level. Plenty of research, and try to make your answers personal. I think that's, yeah, the last thing on here. So I'm not going to lie. Questions are they're going to be your bread and butter, right? That's where that's your money. And so you can have a great speech and it can sound good, but if you can't answer the question that was asked, not I gave an answer, but I didn't answer what you asked me. If you can't make it personal, if you can't articulate, then, you're not going very far. This is where the real work needs to be done. However, you can't get there if kids don't get that top part done, memorize, presentation, etc. So this is the last step, but I always tell my kids, I'll say, well, you ask me questions. Well, baby, you don't know the speech yet. When we get the speech learned, then we'll ask the questions. And they're like, and they want to be asked questions because they want to show me how smart they are. I don't let them, right? It's just like in my vet med, we do ID, and test. And they're like, can we do a practicum? Well, there's no reason for us to do a practicum if you can't tell me what dog that is. And so they work and work and work to be able to get to the practicum. It's the same with questions. This is like the thing. This is like the dessert, right? So I don't work a lot of questions until they got a speech down. And then when they hear other kids getting to answer questions, that pushes them, right? Again, they need plenty of research. And I think you got to make things personal, right? You really need to listen. I tell kids this all the time. Stop thinking about it as I'm answering a question and think about it as I'm having a conversation with a person. Right now, if I ask Elizabeth, she's the only kid on here, if I ask Elizabeth a question, she should answer me like she's just talking to me. Like we were sitting down at Starbucks. Professionally, though, but she should engage with me first. I asked that question. Then she should speak to the other people on that panel or in the room, right? Make it personal. I ask you a question. I say, let's talk about creed because we're doing that creed thing right now, right? Heard enough creed speaking to last me a minute. And I asked a kid a question the other day. I said, as an ag teacher, I find it's really challenging sometimes to reach my freshmen, and I'm concerned that the creed no longer applies to them. Do you believe that the creed still applies to today's high school student? And she paused, and the first thing she said was, thank you so much for being an ag teacher. Mine means so much to me, and I know your kids must really appreciate you as well. To answer your question, game changer. Game changer. Because that just told that judge, I listened to every word you said. And now I've made a personal connection with that judge. The judge doesn't care what I say now. They are in love with me. They want to take me back to their chapter. And that's what this one girl of mine does. And she's very good at it. My daughter was very good at that as well. You got to not be in your head, listen and connect, and then answer, right? Lots of things like that. And it's not always going to lend itself to that perfect thing, right? But if you can make it personal and you can connect, you're going to change the game in that room. All right. Questions. Like I said, these will make or break you. Please make sure you're answering the question. That being said, I don't teach my kids to attack the question. I teach my kids to kind of roll into the question, for lack of a better word, and then answer the question. We don't attack most questions head on, unless that question really, that's the feel of it. But for the most part, we do not just say, well, blah, 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 blah. We won't do that. We roll into questions and we make them feel bigger than they are. We take every opportunity to expand on something when we can take it. If someone asks a question and we got some really great information that we really need coming out in the question, but it may not happen. I tell my kids, I say, you find that place to put that information out there, right? You have to figure out how to get that in, even if they didn't ask, because we left it out of the speech for a reason. So becoming the question master is really the icing on the cake. Of course, you have to have a good speech and a good presentation, but if you have that, your questions will be what separates you. Okay, talk about contests real quick. Again, please jump in anytime you have a question. This is kind of the last area. So in Texas, for those of you who might be new or you're not sure, you haven't really spent a lot of time in public speaking, we have the majors. In the fall, there's 3, State Fair of Texas, and they offer a $5,000 scholarship to the champion and a $2,500 scholarship to the reserve champion overall. Heart of Texas offers a $500 scholarship to the champion. And then SOFA stands for Speak Out for Agriculture. It's put on at the Heart of Texas by the Texas Farm Bureau. And it's a little bit different. It's not a prepared speech, but they do offer scholarships. The top scholarship is $2,500. And then I think it's $1,500 and then $750 and $750. So they give 4 scholarships. And it's a very good, helps you think on your feet, that question kind of thing. If you are in Texas and you've never done SOFA, you should really look into it. If you have more questions about it, let me know. We took 4 kids to SOFA this year, and 2 of them ended up in the finals. So that's pretty good, especially since none of them had ever done it before. It's a great contest. If you're not doing that, you kids are missing the boat. All right, in the majors in the spring, Fort Worth has a speaking contest. It is equine only. So it must be about an issue in the equine industry and a potential solution. And I believe it's a little bit shorter speech. I think it's only 5 minutes. In your first round, I don't believe they ask any questions. And in the second round, they do. They give $14,000 to the top 10. And they limit their entries. So they only allow 60, I think, entries. So if you get in, you've got a pretty good shot at being in the top 10. So last year I only had 1 kid that gave that a try. I think this year I have 6. So that'll be good. It's totally different though. They really need a separate speech, because if you let all of your public speakers talk about the equine industry, I promise you in FFA competition, you're not going anywhere. They need to be able to have a second speech and it be just about this. San Angelo has a speaking contest and it is a buckle contest. So if you win that, it's a buckle. Let me rephrase. I think the new leadership there has improved that contest, but they do just bring in sometimes a lot of old people from the church. if you're close to San Angelo, I say absolutely. If you're not close to San Angelo, it might not be worth the drive, right? San Antonio, best contest there is. It's run right, and it has the most profit. So they give 4 $10,000 scholarships in categories. So animal science is its own division. Ag business and ag policy go together. Plant science and natural resources go together. And then ag tech and comm and Western heritage go together. Okay. It's run right in that you speak in those categories. You don't pick a category and then just get thrown into a jumble like Houston does. You speak in those categories. Joe Mask runs that. He has got that down to a science. If every single stock show would just do what they're doing, I'm talking, it would be different, right? They bring in excellent judges. They have the preliminary round and then the top 2. So there'll be 2 rooms. Like, for example, there's 2 rooms of ag policy and ag business, and the top 2 in each room go against each other to be the final 4, the top 4 in that category. So one of those 4 kids is going to get a $10,000 scholarship. It's great deal. And then Houston they give away 19,000, and that's cash money to the top 10. Unfortunately, Houston does not keep kids in categories, so they require you to say what category you're in, but then when it's all said and done, they just jumble you up and try to balance the rooms. So you could be ag business speaking against plant science. We've asked them repeatedly to fix it, and they haven't. The more people that write that in, the more likely they'll change it. Okay. But hey, it's another place. They do have good judges. I will say that they do bring in really good judges. And so, they give away good money. It's a great place for your kids to practice. You just need to understand they're not going to be competing apples to apples. Rodeo Austin added a contest this year. It's a buckle contest. So again, I have no idea what that's going to look like. It's a first year for them. We don't have very many kids going because of the date of it. I am not going. I believe it's March 19th, which I think falls in the middle of our spring break. And so I'm not going. And I've told my kids, you're welcome to go, but you'll be going on your own. So majors, great opportunity, lots of money. Invitationals. I say get to as many as you can. Because all feedback is appreciated. And if you can get your kids in a room in front of a couple judges, that's going to help alleviate that anxiety for them. And even if I always remind my kids, look, I'm going to let you know what's on that score sheet, that feedback that we're going to give credit to. And then there's some things we're just going to say, well, that was their opinion and that's fine. Okay. As the coach, you should always be doing that. You can let them read that all day long and those kids can say, well, they said this. I don't care what they said. Ultimately, as a coach, you're the one that determines if you're changing the playbook. Okay. Don't let every judge make you feel like you have to make a difference. If you start seeing the same comments over and over, absolutely, you need to give that some credibility. But you've got to consider who's judging, right? Sometimes it's young students. Sometimes it's just teachers at the school. Sometimes it's somebody who thinks everybody is fabulous. And sometimes it's somebody who thinks that everybody should be better, right? You have to go into that with the right mindset. You're paying for someone's opinion. You're getting in front of a crowd. If they win, great. If they don't, great. You're there to be able to practice. So there's that. Online contests, I don't do them at all. I don't find the value in them. The kids are not in a room. If it's a Zoom, maybe, but then the quality is questionable. I don't do recorded contests except for State Fair because that's the only way to get in. If we can all write them letters too and ask them to stop doing that, that'd be great. We do not do online contests. I'm not here to just win a banner. I want these kids to learn, to be successful, and to be able to win the big things. Houston, San Antonio, FFA. I don't care about this invitational online contest because, it's a fundraiser. I love that you're doing a fundraiser, but I'm not putting my kids in it. You do you. To me, they don't have value, so I don't do them. Now, if that's all you got and it's a Zoom, maybe. But if you're turning in a video recording, why? Turn in your video recording to someone else for free. Don't waste your money. If any of you are having online contests, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. FFA competitions. Know the rules, okay, for each level because some only require some districts don't require you to turn anything in. I know there's some districts even here in Area 3. They don't require you to turn in anything. Just come speak. Okay. But when you get to area, we require everything to be turned in. We don't score the manuscripts because the state does not score the manuscripts, but they have to be turned in and they have to be in APA format or you're disqualified. Period. Make sure your topic fits the category. I cannot tell you how many kids have gotten out of a district. They get to area and the executive board says this is not fit in this category. Well, you can't just move them to another category now. They qualified to get there. Somebody else is in that spot. So you're just out. Be strategic about placing your speakers. And I say this, like if you've got a handful, it's easier, right? But when I've got 26, there's only 6 categories plus soil. In our district, we're allowed to have 3 per category. That's 18. I can only place 18 speakers. I have to cut people for district. And then I have juniors, and I can have 2 juniors. Well, I have way more than 2. So some of them have to speak up into senior divisions. So be strategic about that. Don't let every kid speak in animal science. If you've got you got 3 kids in animal science, tell your other kids, I'm sorry, animal science is full. You need to pick a different category. Yeah, you gotta be strategic. Otherwise, you're just beating yourselves, right? Set up practices for your speakers. Like I said, bring in some judges you don't want. If you're not going to invitationals, you don't want the district contest to be the first time that they've had to battle their nerves. You just don't. Okay. Once my kids advance to area or state, I typically set up Zooms with some of the best judges in the state. I just do. And they judge on a Zoom, but I'm looking for feedback at that point. And my other kids might still, my kids that aren't maybe as strong, they might still be in a room in front of some people, but my kids that are the strongest, I've got them on Zooms with some pretty impressive judges. Okay. So use your resources. People will do that for you. You just have to reach out to them. Okay. If you need help, email me. Now, that being said, last year I said that and I got overloaded. The reason that I added the packages is because I got overloaded with, can you edit this? Can you look at this? And I just couldn't. I just couldn't physically with as many as I had. So I said, okay, well, this year I will offer that, but just like anything else, it comes with a fee. If you've got a quick, easy questions, if you have research questions, if you have topic questions, that's different. But if your help is, hey, can you edit this? You have to sign up for a package. I can barely get my kids done. In fact, like I said, after a certain deadline, they got to go to someone else so that I have time to do this, right? Because I do want to help people. I just can't do it unlimited, if that makes sense. So that is it. Open to questions. Anybody got a question?
Nikki, I have a question.
Yes.
When you start help writing speeches, having the kids write speeches, do you give them like an outline of here's 3 points, pro con, what's your outline look like?
So I don't have a specific outline that I physically give them. We have a discussion and I tell them, okay, look, there's really 2 ways to present most speeches, either informative or persuasive. And we talk about that, like, what does your topic lean towards? Are you just going to be giving information, or is this kind of controversial and you're trying to sway somebody to a side? So that's number 1. And then from there, we kind of just sit down together and come up with their main points. But I do that from their research. So I didn't talk about this in there, but the way I do research is they print everything out and then they go through and they highlight in color. So like, let's say that they're starting to see, they're talking about, like I got a kid that talks about aquaponics, right? So she's seeing a lot of new research about aquaponics being put into like hospitals and facilities where the plants have a secondary use, right? And so if she starts to see a lot of that, she starts highlighting all of that in yellow, right? She starts highlighting some other things in blue. And then we go through it and we figure out like, okay, well, what's this main idea? So we do a lot of that together, like when we're setting up our speeches. And so we come up with an outline together. I don't just have an outline format. I mean, like my basic outline format is intro, 3 main points, conclusion. That's what I would tell them. But we figure out like, what are those 3 main points? And my more advanced speakers, they kind of figure out their own 3 main points. And then I look at it and I say, okay, well, this is too broad, or it's not, it's too much. It needs to be broken in half or whatever. So we do that before they start writing, but I don't have like a paper. If that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else got some questions? I did a lot of talking.
I just wanted to start by saying thank you very much. I've been public speaking since I was a little girl, and I learned a lot today that I've never even thought of before. But my FFA advisor, she is a wonderful, absolutely great, intelligent lady. I have nothing but the world to speak of her, but she is not a public speaker. She is a CDE girl.
Mm-hmm.
And at the last state convention, I ended up getting 2nd place in the FFA Creed. And I believe it was because I just exhausted my resources.
Mm-hmm.
I knew more about the FFA Creed than she did at that point. Not to toot my own horn,
right,
or anything like that. She's wonderful. But do you have any suggestions of resources that I could go to if I hit that blockage again?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I would, with social media today, I think that there's so many things that you could Instagram, you could Facebook and be like, hey, I'm a New York FFA member and I am doing FFA Creed speaking. Hit me up if you're a Creed speaker. And then I promise you would have like, right? And I think that making your own little group of other kids from other states that are doing great at Creed speaking, I think that's your first line of defense, right? Secondly, I would go look up who won the last couple of years and I would stalk them on social media and find them. I just would, right? I would go figure that out and I would make them my resource. And then obviously, like I said, you can email me. I can always, any other adults, I don't step on people's toes, but if ag teachers are fine with it, I'm happy to like help, even a Zoom of, hey, listen to the Creed. It's 3 minutes. Come on, whatever. I can give you 3 minutes. Ask a couple questions, give feedback, right? You can use other advisors in that way, but also I would say, hey, you should reach out to my girl, Sophia. She's, whatever. And y'all could connect and present this Creed for each other and give each other some feedback, right? So I think that a lot of times in that specific scenario, being able to see how other people are presenting the Creed might be as valuable, if not more, than just having an ag teacher tell you what their thoughts are, right? Because obviously, if you can talk to other kids who are state qualifiers in Creed speaking, well, they've got to be pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? Got anything? Okay, well, I don't want to keep y'all any longer. Like I said, it was a lot of talking. Last year I did it in 2 different workshops, and this year I was like, I'm just going to do one so that everybody can get rolling. And And so I try to fit everything in. If you did order the advanced or the pro package, I will get with you directly via email to set, let you know like, hey, let's set up a time, because one of those things was I would come to you. Obviously, I put that on there, that distance is one of those things. It might be a Zoom, or like some people have like 7 people. So that might be worth, the drive, right? Obviously for New York, I don't remember what she put down. She did the advance. So yeah, so like we'll figure that out on Zoom. I mean, as much as I'd love to come to New York, or y'all come to Texas, whatever. But I will be in
It's
touch.
beautiful where we live in New York. You should take a weekend up and get a cabin on the lake. I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. I've never been to the countryside in New York. I've only been to, Manhattan, big city New York. So different, yeah. But not in the snow. Okay.
The snow is wonderful. Please don't tell me you've never seen snow.
Oh, I have. It snows in Texas. I just don't love
It
it.
does, actually? I did not know that.
Yeah, it'll snow here. Yeah, we don't love it unless you live above Dallas and then you're used to it. So, but yes, I will be in touch to set those things up with y'all and figure out like what's your time frame, especially for other states, because I don't know what your schedule looks like as far as when your contests are, and if you've got any state contests or major livestock shows, things like that are coming up. So we'll visit. Again, if you didn't get signed up for one of those packages and you want to upgrade it, judging card is still open. And so you can go in and do that if you feel like that would be of value to you. If you miss that deadline and later you're like, hey, I just need you. You can message me and we can always do that privately. I've had some people message me today who don't have access to judging card and just, did it personally through Venmo. So that's fine as well. It's just easier for me to keep track of everybody on judging card. So anyway, I hope everybody had got something valuable. I will also email out my rubric and my timeline to you. I will email the presentation recording as soon as I get it uploaded to YouTube. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you'll have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Nikki. This was great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Bye, guys.